obviously it is not Saturday or Sunday, but we are here on this lovely Monday afternoon hanging out with all of you. Pretty excited to be hanging out here and doing our thing with some watercolors. I'm actually pretty glad that we get to spend some time here together on this Monday afternoon because something we started at school today is Mental Health May, and I know that's not something that we talk about very often, certainly not something we'd normally talk about while doing watercolors, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about it today because it's something that's really important when we're doing storytelling, especially with tabletop RPGs or anything that involves role-playing, really. And often that's what storytelling is. It's role-playing. So today we're going to talk a little bit about mental health while we're doing some watercolors together. And to help facilitate our conversations, I brought back one of, well, maybe not my favorite characters, but certainly one of the characters I grew fond of over time. I kind of call them the character I should never have played, probably because they did affect my mental health quite a bit. And it may not be the character that you at first think. Apologies. My hair is very curly today, which can be very fun, but it does get in my face. And when it's this curly, I can't get it up as much as I'd want. So you kind of just have to deal with it. So you'll probably see me do this a lot. It is what it is. So yes. So while we're doing all of that, I just thought it would be kind of fun to use this character as a way to sort of facilitate our conversations and just sort of keep us going and use their mental health as a way to sort of talk about how that can affect our mental health as we're playing through the games. So let's get started. Get us into a better position here. Okay. So this may give it away just a little bit, but does anyone remember this lovely watercolor? We probably did, maybe January-ish, maybe early February. It's part of like our beginning of the year series of just kind of saying goodbye and thank you to the characters of yesteryear, the retired characters or just the ones that we've sort of played through that maybe don't get to come with us into the next year. So this particular character spent a lot of time in the Feywilds, and yes, it is Zorali Elin Sion. And we painted this picture because her pivotal kind of character moment happened in the Feydark after traveling through the Underdark for quite some time. And there was just sort of like this sparkling crystal rain falling from the trees and this beautiful, colorful grove together with her party. And so I tried to give it kind of a sparkle. I don't know if you all remembered, but at the time, I was like, I'm going to mix my own gold paint. I don't need to buy it. I'm going to learn how to use ground to make my own paint. It went about as well as can be expected under the circumstances. Not well. So that was take one. Under the circumstances, it's a decent painting, but it's not the best. I think it's a good reference work. Not something I'd necessarily put out in the world, if you know what I mean. It's a good starter piece. Meanwhile, I've since upgraded and did a nice glitter wash on these bookmarks. And this is now what the painting looks like today. Much better, right? See, when we don't just randomly do things and we trust the professionals, things come out much better. And that's okay. Sometimes you gotta experiment and things fall a little flat. So I'm going to be using both of these as a reference today to play around with some aquaboard. I already laid down the wash because I learned with aquaboard, if you just wash like normal, it does some interesting warping. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Good news is warping can be corrected. It just has to wait till the very end, and then you just kind of gently lay it underneath, sort of like flower pressing, I guess. Something heavy, just gentle, and it will correct. But yeah, that was a bummer. Didn't know Aquaboard did that, but also can't be easily taped down to avoid warping. Yeah, that was kind of a bummer. Like, how do I tape down Aquaboard? I'm gonna have to do some research into that, but we'll see. So I'm gonna keep this up here so we can kind of see it, and then I'm gonna lay out my bookmarks up on my keyboard so I can kind of keep an eye on where I need to go with that. Those are in the wrong order. The thing about panels is if you need to replicate them, they need to be in a certain order. Otherwise it's just not quite correct. I don't know if you guys can see, but I do have that glitter wash on there already, as well as those light white background trees off in the distance. And I'm probably going to need to do another layer of white on there because it's not showing up quite as crystal clear as I'd like. But I'm going to wait until I get all the other trees in so I know exactly where they're going to go. I really hope that glitter is showing up because it's really pretty. But we'll see. We'll see how that's going to go. So for those of you in the audience, your job today to help facilitate our mental health conversation is thus. You all know about the suggestion jar from Tales of Adventure, and we don't normally use it during side quest streams, but whenever you feel like you'd want to, or there's a lull in the conversation, your job is to call suggestion jar, and I'll pull something out of the jar, and our conversation will be around mental health and Zirali and what's going on with her mental health using her character journal. And I have her character sheet with us today, and also what's happening with character bleed sometimes, because I did bleed through Zirali and feel a lot of what she was feeling, so then that can help us facilitate what's happening with mental health and tabletop RPGs a little bit. So yes, and of course, if ever you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me anything. You can ask me about her, you can ask me about me and my mental health, because this is something that's really important. We often don't talk about character bleed and mental health and tabletop RPGs, but it is a very important thing that I think we need to talk about more often, simply because new players often don't know about it coming into tabletop RPGs, and certainly older players can be reminded of it as well as they're continuing on their journeys. It never hurts to refresh the knowledge that you already have and can continue to build upon that throughout the years. And facilitating conversations with newer players is a great way to refresh your knowledge and to continue to build on it as we're learning new things and new techniques all the time. Certainly, if you've been playing since the beginning, when Dungeons and Dragons or other tabletop games first developed in the 60s and 70s, mental health techniques have far surpassed what they could do back then. So you may very well learn something new from us younglings who've only been playing for a couple of years, but may know a few extra mental health techniques up our sleeves and can bring that to the table. You never know. Us young squirtles on the internet, we sometimes do know a thing or two. Yep, you never know. And we're more than welcome to have a conversation about it, at least, because you never know if you are or aren't going to learn anything unless you're willing to listen. So at least start there. Okay, so I'm going to start throwing in some tree leaves. Shrubbery, guys. We're going to do shrubbery. Because then I can figure out where I want. I've remembered from before that if I just start putting down things without holding down the aqua board, remember the other day when it was just like, wiggle, 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 yeah. And I was like, no. So we're going to put one hand down gently and go ahead and go in and just gently start. Oh, it's almost too dark. Let's see here. I I probably should have brought over a paper towel. But hey, it's all good. Oh, shoot. Pete the cat. Who was it that said that Pete the cat sounds high? Can't remember. But ever since someone said that, every time I say something from Pete the cat, I'm like, gosh darn it, he does sound high. Can't unsee it now. I feel like that was my friend Tori. Tori, if you're watching this and in the chat, I blame you. I don't even know if you actually said it, but I hold you responsible. I also hold you responsible if I find out later that Squishy died. I just need you to know. Back context, my friend has been playing a game with dinosaurs. I don't actually understand it all that well, but there's a dinosaur named Squishy. It's their pet, I guess? I don't really know. I don't really do video games. But anyways, Squishy's died like 10 times. We just keep making more Squishies. They keep dying. It's kind of sad. I don't really understand why there's humans and dinosaurs in the game. I'd kind of understand if there were just dinosaurs and we were just doing dinosaur stuff. But why are there humans and dinosaurs? I don't really understand that part. Someone will have to explain it to me. I'll ask later. They're probably streaming tonight. They usually stream after I'm done. If Cameron's in the chat, maybe Cameron can explain. Cameron, you play too, don't you? Cameron always plays. It's Austin who kills a Squishy. If Austin's here, Austin can leave. I'm just kidding. Austin killed my Squishy like 3 times. We're not friends now. Just kidding. Mostly. Don't tell Austin I said that. Or maybe do. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to try to wash this out a little bit. Some of these are going to have tons of layers. Y'all are really quiet today. I'm going to end up calling all of the jars, aren't I? I wasn't originally going to like worry too much about whether or not I ever hit like affiliate and stuff like that. But now I kind of feel like I should, just to make you all interact. Like I could make the chat do anything. But if I did get us into that kind of thing, because then we could like have polls and we could like you could like redeem points to use the jar or make me drink coffee. I know how much you all love it when I'm having way too much coffee. Speaking of which, I'm kind of thirsty. But like, how fun would that be? And I can't set that up unless I hit that. But otherwise I kind of don't care. I'm just having fun. But it's like all those little cute quirks and stuff that you can't use unless like you've hit a certain amount of stuff. So lame. Anyways. Okay. I'm gonna let that dry. And I'm pulling from the jar since you all are being a little quiet tonight. Okay. So I feel like I've talked about before that this character is a changeling. So the question was, what race is Zerali? Zerali is a changeling. Part of her background as a changeling is that she's sort of that cuckoo in a nest character. Technically, in Dungeons and Dragons, changelings don't work this way. They're supposed to be from the realm of Eberron. So they have a race and a parentage just like any other race. So dwarves, elves, humans, orcs, etc. So I suppose in that sense you could technically have a half changeling something, just like you could have a half orc or a half elf. But I don't know if it really technically works that way. But because certain traits are always dominant in certain species, but I suppose you could, technically speaking, according to the 5e rules. So for Zerali, though, with GM permission, I played it more in the traditional Celtic sense of things. So what happens with her is that she is, again, like that cuckoo in the nest. So what we did is that we pretended that she had been abandoned by somebody. Literally left in the cradle. Now, we don't really get into what happened to the biological child. It just simply wasn't within the scope of the campaign. Plus, Zerali probably wouldn't know. It just doesn't ever come up. And, it's just not something that's within the scope of the Underdark, Out of the Abyss, that we were playing. And some questions you also kind of don't want to answer. Like, what did happen to the biological offspring that they replaced? I don't want to answer that. Just not present and accounted for. Sorry. Yeah. Maybe they passed away. Maybe they were kidnapped to the Feywilds. Technically, if we were truly playing this in the Celtic sense, the original offspring would have been considered kidnapped to the Feywilds. So that's kind of how we were doing it. And so what happened next with her, Zerali, is pretty much exactly how things went in the original Celtic traditions. So what they would do, and I think I brought this up before, for anyone who has seen, I want to see, it's Outlander. There's an episode where this literally happens. A suspected changeling is there in the village, and so they leave it out in the woods in the hopes that the Fae will come and take their offspring back, essentially. And obviously that doesn't happen because there's no such thing as Fae. But this is something that literally happened historically, is when there was ever a suspected changeling, is they would be left into the woods in hopes that their, true parents would come get them. And then the biological child would be returned. Now in Zerali's case, she wasn't observed to be a changeling until she was a bit older. So when she was left out in the woods, obviously no biological child was returned. For whatever reason, there was none to be returned. And that's not something she was aware of, so therefore it's not part of her background. And but she was old enough to survive in the woods on her own. So that was part of what was going on there. And she's not aware that she's a changeling because she wasn't raised among anyone or anything that made her aware of that. So she can shapeshift to an extent, but she does it almost subconsciously as like a defense mechanism. The same way a chameleon might camouflage itself within nature, but always remains a chameleon. So she kind of behaves like that. So they might, sorry, I keep switching her pronouns. I do generally refer to Zerali as they, but every now and again I get it wrong. I don't know why. I don't generally get it wrong in the campaign, but today I seem to be. They would always remain humanoid in nature. So, like, for example, they were generally always their height and general build, but they might change hair color, eye color, skin tone, maybe slightly change their build or height, but they're always basically the same dimensions, which is not usually how things work with a changeling, but because they are unaware of their abilities, they're not behaving in a standard changeling manner. And certainly they would not have had any training. And there's more to it than that. It's literally a self-defense mechanism because they consider themselves to be a monster. And we'll get into more of that later as we pull questions. But this is part of why character bleed is something we need to talk about, is because if we're going to play a character with a build like Zerali, we probably should not be manifesting those kinds of emotions on a daily basis. Like, we should not be walking around believing that we are evil monsters who break everything that we touch. Like, that's not a healthy thing to be believing about ourselves, and we shouldn't be feeling that all the time. Just saying. Certainly people do believe those things. That's something that I've had struggles with all on my own without Zerali interfering in any way. And so that's why I sometimes call Zerali the character I should never have played. Because sometimes we create a character thinking it'll be an amazing concept, and it is. She could have had, they could have had such a cool character arc. But, and they so close, this close to it actually happening. And then the whole thing just blew up in our faces. But there's always that point where things feed off each other. Zerali's emotions and my emotions sort of feeding off of each other. And when you're not aware of character bleed or how it can affect you or how it can affect your character, oh, is that a melting pot of weird just waiting to happen? Not gonna lie. And I think that's why it's so important to talk about mental health like this. Because even though there's not necessarily a perfect solution for how to handle character bleed or even how to handle mental health, just starting to have the conversation is better than never having the conversation, which is kind of the alternative at this point. So, yeah. As someone who didn't know what character bleed was, even after it was literally beating them over the head, and I thought I was going crazy. It's really important that we talk about it. Like, that's kind of just the point. Like, at least we identify that it is a thing, and we make other people aware that it is a thing, because not knowing it is basically the bottom line of worse, in my opinion. Like, it can't get worse than just never speaking about it at all. At least try to speak about it, right? Because then people can be aware and choose which conversations to be a part of. Completely ignoring it and pretending it doesn't exist, that's pretty dang bad. I suppose there could be worse things than that. I just can't think of one right now. Maybe you all can help me in the chat and speak up and be like, actually, I can think of a worse thing than that. And I'll be like, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But right now, I can't think of something worse than just simply pretending it's not there at all. Because that's pretty bad. And the same goes for all mental health concerns. Just blatantly ignoring it. I can't imagine it gets much worse than that. Just saying. Okay, so I've got some trees in here. That got really dark. Let's lighten the mood here a little bit. Anyone have any questions for me that don't involve me, like, completely spilling my guts? We're gonna do some trees now. On that note. I probably wasn't ready for blue. to fix this. Don't know if I can. Okay, it's fine. We're just gonna kind of wash that out a little bit. It will dry much lighter. Ooh, I can see that little bit of glitter. I also see my hair. Okay. Got hair and a little bit of gold. I actually saved this water from when I was washing everything. Not like washing dishes, but like washing the board down and making sure I got a nice wash on the paper, because I wanted that glitter to be in there from the gold paint, so that if we needed it for layers, it would be there and kind of available to us. And I kind of like how it's like there now. It just kind of looks cool. We got some cool vibes going on. Some real cool vibes. Anyways. So now that I've like completely broken all of your hearts, not to make a complete light of this situation, but we did have some dark moments in there. How is everyone doing on this Monday afternoon here? Oh, I need to keep track of the time. Where's my phone? Okay, good. I would love to chat forever, but unfortunately, I do have an appointment later that I can't be late for. So I don't want to make us too late. Us mean me. I don't want any of you to be late either, but I don't know if any of you have stuff to get to. Anyways, you're welcome to throw in the chat how you're doing. I do want to know. Okay. Got a little bit more layer and texture going on there. It's always hard to layer and texture the other side, because the best we can really do is like throw a little bit of purple on top of it, but okay, let's see what we can do. Don't want to make it too purple. Okay, that's pretty good. I feel kind of exhausted after that rant. I don't know about you guys. That was like catharsis right there. Anyways. Oh, yes. Okay, I think that will be okay. And remember, if you want some more lore, you can always throw it into the jar or ask me questions about anything. This is an Ask Me Anything day. Within reason. I mean, you can ask the question. I might decline to answer depending on what it is. But you're always welcome to ask. Always, always, always. Ooh, okay. This is a good color here. I like this. This is nice. So, how many fights have I been in? Like, I actually feel like I need to narrow that down. Do you mean like street fights or like sparring matches? Because I don't know if many of you guys know this, but I actually used to be a martial arts instructor. I know. Physical fights. Oh, just like in general? Oh, I don't think I can actually count them all. Too many to count. But not like in a bad way. If I were just counting up like street balls, like 2 or 3, maybe. Not many. Less than 5. Less than 5. But because I used to teach martial arts, I've been in quite a few fights, sparring matches. Okay, we weren't just like decking each other out. Um, but yes, so for a while there, I did teach martial arts, and I received my first degree black belt in Northern style Taekwondo, and I specialized in weapons instruction. So I'm the one that hit you all with bow stabs. Sorry. My hair's down right now, so it's like flying everywhere. Um, so, yes, that was me, and there was plenty of fighting happening. But there's rules, of course, so I wasn't just like decking children's for no reason. Well, just kidding. No, I didn't deck any children. I decked plenty of my own peers in a sparring match when I needed to, but no children's. No children's. So, yes. What am I looking for? But as far like full out and out brawls, I'm gonna guess like there's like only one like out and out brawl, but I've had a couple of fisticuffs, as I like to call them, where it's just sort of like I was managing the situation in a physical outdoor world kind of real world situation, but like it wasn't like, you know, I'm in a military town, okay, things kind of get wild sometimes, but like out and out brawl like one. So yeah, doesn't happen often. So yes, anyone in the chat, we're talking about having fights. You all are welcome to share how many fights you have gotten in as well. I sometimes wonder if I would have gotten into more if I'd been public schooled. I was homeschooled, so not that many fights. Gotta say, not many. Plus, I was the sort of kid that like, if you decked me, I probably would have just taken it and then been like, that's cool. Now let's use our words and talk about it. Even though I was doing martial arts training, I just probably would have been like, cool story, bro. Moving on. It's better I would have just like redirected the punch and then been like, cool, now that you've had that out of your system, we're gonna talk about it. And I'm kind of still like that as an adult. Like when students like get really angry in my classroom, I'm just kind of like, just let the feels out, it's fine. And when you're ready, we're gonna talk about this, because next time we're not gonna let the emotions out like this. But for right now, just like let it out, man, it's fine. I get it. Sometimes you're just angry and you gotta let it out. But yeah, so that's another part of mental health actually, is knowing how to like let it out safely. We don't always have a good method of letting it out, letting all of those emotions out. Sometimes we're just not given the outlet we really need, which kind of sucks. Dang it, I never did fix that. Oh well, poor stream elements. I'm constantly noodling with it, and I never do quite get it right. Oh well, I should probably just turn it off, but eh. Speaking of mental health. Things I should do but don't do. Okay, I'm gonna add a little more blue onto this side. You guys are welcome to throw some more questions in the chat. That was an interesting one. I kind of liked that. Yeah, it's just gonna keep going. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna throw more blue on this side first. And then, oh, I always forget I need to hold this down. I'm sorry. While I'm holding this down, I know you all can't really see what I'm doing as much as normal, but I'm worried about it moving around here. And I don't want to lose all our hard work. Alright. Pew pew pew. Probably gonna layer some more purple in a second to make sure that that blue's not like too blue, but I want to make sure that it dries okay too. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, there we go. I'm always checking in the camera. I found the camera's like a nice way to kind of keep an eye on things. Okay. Let's put some up here too. Just like, oh, it's almost too watered down. Oh well. Well, I need to layer more anyways. Be fine. Do. Alrighty, there we go. For now I'm gonna leave that part there to see how that kind of plays out as we're toning. I think I might want to put branches in next before I do anything else. Again, checking my time. Yeah, we've got tons. Good. Yay. Tons of time makes me happy. Yeah, I think it's time to bring out the Payne's Gray. I know it's like a running joke, this is the color I always use, but I did originally use that one for this, so I'm going to bring it back and make sure that it's appropriate. Oh, someone's gloopy today. That's weird. I wonder if I got water in the tube. I hope not. Dang. Okay. Huh. We'll check that out later. Okay. So I'm gonna water it a little bit and kind of put some on my palette over here. I know you all can't really see very much of what I'm doing, but there's only so much space. Sorry. I'm just gonna have to wait it out. And I'm just taking my like plum burgundy color and I'm darkening it slightly because I'm gonna go back in and kind of play with some like layers of leaves. I just want to like it look like there's layers here. But I don't want to do like too much layers just yet because we haven't really put in our like branches. I just kind of want to see like where the water and stuff has kind of like played out. Trying to like give it a sense of form here. Okay. Get a little bit more water, but not too much because we don't want it watery. When things are too watery, we don't get those fun little branch shapes. There we go. Do. Okay. Ooh, that was a fun little. Yeah, I think I need to bring this up more. It's too dark there. Too dark. Okay. Maybe bring this down. Maybe this up. I don't know. I don't know. Well, we're thinking about things. We are thinking about things. And sometimes trees kind of like. I'm gonna bring a little bit over here. Yeah. Having thoughts. Having all kinds of thoughts. This is fun. Okay. I'm gonna let that dry for a second. Okay. Suggestion jar. I want everything to be perfectly dry before I start throwing out some tree trunks and branches and things. So I don't want at this point there to be any like wash or blur or whatnot. So we're just oh, that was really cold on my foot. Did you guys see me jump? That was so cold. Oh, okay. Does my character have a family? I feel like we kind of addressed that a little bit. No, not really. She may or may not have a biological family. They or may not have a biological family. They were, as I said, left abandoned. So that's something that they kind of don't really think about. Their concept of family is just sort of non-existent in a way. Partly because even after they were abandoned in the woods, Zarali was captured by a group of high elves and sort of trained to be their hunter. So, because she showed such a proficiency for woodsmanship, she became like their hunter and archer, and this is how she became a ranger. So she was asked to go out into the woods and hunt there for any creatures that they might need and desire. And so it's part of why how humanoids and elves became her favorite enemy, because she disliked how they would treat anything out in the woods so much. So, and they would not treat her particularly well, so I guess that's kind of why she doesn't really see anything that cares or watches over you as being familial in any way. It doesn't really have a concept of family. Most memorable moment from the campaign. Well, we're kind of painting it right now. But something I talked about the other day, because Zarali grew up in the woods away from civilization, she doesn't really have a great concept of social norms, shall we say. And so something I always thought was kind of interesting is how kind of intrusive she can get. She will come right up to you and just ask questions like it's no big deal. Almost kind of in the way that many neurodivergent friends will. Just walk right up to you like it's no big deal because she doesn't really know that that's wrong. Or maybe not wrong is not the great word for that, but socially inappropriate or not common, as it were. She'll just come right up, ask a question, or come right up and do something. And this happened at one point during a trip to an herbalism shop. One of her favorite things is lavender. And so while the party was having a discussion about lavender and different things, the flowers and what was going on in town, she saw that flower and just took it and put it in her pocket. No, she did not purchase it. She just straight up committed theft. But theft isn't really a concept that she has or understands. So yes, we went ahead and rolled through those sneak rolls and sleight of hand, and she passed, of course, being the little sneaky ranger that she is. And we had to have a nice little chat about that amongst the party members later, about why she decided to steal lavender of all things. And turns out it was because she just sort of figured that if it's growing on the side of the road, then that's the same as it just sitting around in a shop, right? And no, it's not actually the same thing. When it's in a shop, it's for sale. If it's on the side of the road, it's for free. Those are different things. I don't think she really understood that. I'm not sure she understands that today, but yes. And of course, they had many awkward conversations later on because the party was planning on committing a bank heist in town. And she wanted to know why it's okay to steal gold coins from the bank, but it's not okay to steal lavender from the herbalism shop. So, yes, many fun, awkward conversations were had that night. But what's fun about the lavender is actually in this scene that we're painting right now, Zarali's having a conversation with a party member named Zentha. And Zentha is feeling quite sad because she's just had something stolen by the Fae. And although Zarali doesn't really understand why that's making her friend sad, she's willing to give up that one little small thing that's managed to make her happy since they've been traveling in the Underdark. in an attempt to try to make her friend smile. And I just think that's kind of cute. That even though you might not really understand why someone's upset, we can always try to make an attempt at making them feel a little bit better. Even so far as to give up something that we truly loved or enjoyed, and try to help them out a little bit. And it's okay that we might not understand everything about what's going on. Sometimes the best we can do is try. And I think that's an important lesson for Mental Health May, is that we're not always going to understand, but we can always try. We can listen, and we can keep listening. We can always ask questions, right? We can always do our best to try to work it out, right? So even if it's hard to try to work it out, even if it's confusing, we can always do our best and just, try and at least listen, be a listening ear when someone needs us. And sometimes that's the best we can do under the circumstances, is just be a listening ear, hand to hold, offer a hug or a lavender flower. And sometimes that's all people really need from us, is to just be there and be around, Okay, I'm going to throw in a branch here, I think. Have it kind of come like that. That way it can kind of come out like in here. Okay, I'm probably going to finish the rest of that branch later. I just kind of wanted to have an idea of where I wanted it. I'm just realizing this is really faint. I'm hoping that picks up on camera. Sometimes these really faint lines don't. And then it magically shows up later. And I'm just like, did you even do that during the stream? Yes, I did. Swears these. I was not just sitting here. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't show up. Maybe because they're pale, maybe because they're thin. I just can't quite get things to show up the way I want to. Not until I make them a little thicker, a little darker. Oh, like that. Haha. Okay, I'm going to skip that part because I do want that to be on top. I don't really want it to show through, but I might kind of dot it in. Just so I know where things are. Okie dokie. Oh yes, I put it all the way down, didn't I? Yes, yes, yes. Here it is. Bloop. I like to give my brushes sound effects. It's kind of fun. Brush with the sound effect. Okay. And I think I do want this branch to kind of come up this way. Just right on top of things. I think I can do stuff with that. A lot of these won't be 100% finished until I know exactly how all my all my leaves and things are gonna play out, but I can kind of start working things in, figuring it all out. So at least I kind of have a good idea of how things might kind of play out. That way I'm not just randomly throwing things in there. Okay. I don't want it to be overly random. I want there to be some sort of plan moving forward. A sense of organization amongst the chaos, It's That's all I ask of my paint. But it looks like I actually thought this through, at least for like 5 minutes. Because I like to think that I did. Okay. So now that I have that kind of in there, I'm going to take a little thicker brush and start to kind of layer down some of the thicker branches that I know I'm going to have. Because I can always kind of come back in. Some stuff I'm going to have to go over with an even thicker brush, but stuff that I know that is basically just like, that's it, how it's going to be, I can do with some of this thinner stuff. That was almost too watered down, so I'm going to try one more time. There we go. Okay, and I know this needs to be kind of adjusted here. And some of this will probably get brushed over again, but while I'm here and while I have a brush, at least I can kind of like have an idea of where things will end up. Okay. Oh yeah, now it's definitely starting to show up a lot more. Okay, good. Yes. Okay. I think these paler lines here are probably just gonna have to be redone with the liner brush with less water, but I can kind of start to line some of this stuff back in. We'll see. Oh, that might be too much paint. So let's go up here where I know things will need to be thicker. There we go. Okay. Sorry I'm not very chatty while I'm doing this. I found that I can work delicate lines or talk, but not both. I've learned the hard way. I can do one or the other. I'm not going to be able to do both. Okay, I'm seeing that I'm at the point where I need to switch brushes. And go even thicker. Okay, I think this one. So I want a nice point on this brush. And now we're just really getting into our tree trunks here. There we go. Just trying to give myself a little more control. Okay. And again, a lot of this is gonna get probably covered up by some leaves, but we just kind of want to see where things fall. ball. I made a leaf joke. Sorry. I get very silly late in the day. It happens. Okay. I'll do some detail stuff with the liner brush, throwing that in, doing some like roots and things. But right now I just kind of want to get like a shape of a trunk in here. And I can kind of see if I need to add like some branches lower down. I'm thinking maybe, yes, maybe something like here. I originally didn't have anything there, but the bookmarks are much shorter. This is like it's a little bit taller, so I might add something there. We shall see. Okay, I'm gonna do something over here too. Get that trunk in. Now, obviously we didn't darken that very much, but that trunk didn't really need a whole lot of stuff. Okay. There we go. Kind of like that one a little bit better. It's got that nice cute little lean to it. It's a sassy tree. Haha. I feel like trees in the Feywild would have a little bit of sass to them. Like, yes, I am a very cool tree that like bleeds gold and diamonds. Anyways. I don't know why I just thought that. Random thoughts on a Monday afternoon. Just how things are going. Okay. Yeah. While I'm here, I think I am gonna throw, just so I can kind of see how that would look like. That's kind of up there. Just a little bit of like, kind of hovering around. Yeah, I do think that needs to kind of be in there. And then I can kind of like bring it into the trunk once that dries. But I'm gonna wait till the trunk's a little bit drier so that I can layer that. But otherwise, I think that that'll be okay. That'll be alright. And I can bring this down a little bit more. I think this needs to be more at an angle, wrapping around the tree more. I think that'll be okay though. Okay. So, unfortunately, I'm at the point where I need to start getting ready for an afternoon appointment, but I think we did some awesome stuff today, and we will come back to this hopefully later in the week because Mental Health May doesn't go away. It's an all week fun thing. And then we can always keep chatting about stuff. Before we go, if there's any questions that I can answer, I would love to answer any questions that you all might have, either about the painting or me or the rally that we talked about today or anything at all. I love questions. So yes, last call for questions, or even just pulling a question from the jar. We can take the last couple of minutes before I dash on out of here to answer a last question from our chat audience, as it were, and I get a coffee. It never hurts to have a last bit of coffee as well. Coffee is always fun. So this has got to dry. It will eventually look something like this, but it needs some time to sit out, and I need to get ready for some fun stuff. So last call for questions from the audience, even if it's something like how many sparring matches have I been in? I actually don't know that one, so please don't ask me. That'd be a bit like asking a soccer player how many soccer matches they have been in their lifetime. I don't think any of us would actually know. That'd be very difficult to figure out. So, not that we wouldn't try to work it out, but that would be very difficult. Alrighty, friends. So there's no more questions for me this afternoon. Thank you for hanging out and having some fun with me. I certainly had a lot of fun hanging out with all of you, and I will never forget that awesome question that we had in the chat. That was definitely a fun one. So thank you for spending some time with us. We'll be back with this painting hopefully this weekend, if there's no more migraines or, for me, mental health fun stuff going on. And I hope you'll join us Friday. We're going to go heading back out and exploring some folk tales and turning them on their heads for tales of adventure. I haven't quite decided what country we're heading to next. Last week was Japan. I think we're going to keep going around the world, which would land us somewhere in North America. But we shall see. We shall see what I can dig up on North American folklore. So we will see how that one goes. I've got a few more days to work that one out, but there will be a new fairy tale twist come into Tales of Adventure on Friday with more fun watercolors, of course. If not, I will see you this weekend for more side quests and coffee, and hopefully some more watercolor painting. So until then, have a lovely week. Thank you for chatting with us and having some awesome questions. See you all soon.